So friends, welcome. What if Naruto was blessed by Sitri family, Naruto x serafall x Sona, Naruto x harem movie. In the underworld, things have changed since the days of the original Satans and the Civil War. Most devils have departed from that way of life, and after the Civil War things are slowly being put back together. Sadly, not all good things have come to the devil race, with one major issue they are still facing as a population crisis. Children are a rarity in terms of the devils, and those that have children cherish them above all else and do what they can to protect them from the future. Half-breed children are common due to the differences in genetics and some races now being introduced thanks to the peerage system. This allows them to increase their numbers, but sadly many of those children are looked down on for not being purebloods. Which is why the Sitri family was celebrating the arrival of their third child. In the hospital was a dark-haired man with blue eyes wearing a black button-up shirt and a pair of brown slacks. This was Xavier Sitri. He was pacing through the hallway due to his own fear of something happening to either his wife or their child. More, his wife, as he knows 3 pregnancies are a rarity among devils, and he was worried that something might go wrong on this one. Next to him in the chairs was his oldest child, a black-haired woman wearing a green business suit. She had her hair in twin pigtails and was holding onto her younger sibling, who was pouting in her lap. The middle child had purple eyes like her sister, but her hair was much shorter in almost a bob-cut style of hair and seemed to be angry about being in her sister's lap. These two were serafall Leviathan and 3-year-old Sona Sitri, Xavier's 2 daughters, and they were awaiting the arrival of their newest sibling, one more with curiosity and the other with buzzing anticipation. Also in the room was family friends such as the Gremory clan, an older gentleman with red hair and a goatee, a brown-hair woman with purple eyes wearing a white dress while carrying a small red-haired child the same age as the other child in the room. Next to them was a red-haired man who had a younger complexion to the other men in the room, and his wife standing next to them in a maid's outfit. These people were Zeoticus Gremory, his wife Venelana Gremory Bael, his daughter Rias Gremory, and his son and daughter-in-law Sirzek Lucifer and Graphia Lucifuge. Xavier, calm down, Xavier Sitri glared at his friend. This coming from a man that was smoking when he found out his wife was going through labor for his second child. A smack was heard, as this is something Venelana didn't know, and she was not pleased, especially since he promised to stop smoking ever since their second child was born. Alcohol was fine, but smoking was something she would not put up with around her children. Yes, ow, he rubbed the back of his head, your wife is fine. The doctors are going to come out here and tell you that you either have another beautiful daughter or a very handsome son. I mean, who knows, maybe this one will have your wife's blonde hair. The man narrowed his eyes and sighed. Maybe Lucifer hopes she doesn't have anything wrong. I am just worried with why it seems to be taking long. A doctor came out into the hallway. Lord Sitri? The man rushed. Yes, is everything all right? The doctor smiled sadly. Yes, your wife got through the process beautifully and gave birth to quite a cute boy with blonde hair. The man sighed and serafall's eyes sparkled while Sona gained an interest look with a small tilt of her head. So can I go? Yes, but I am afraid there was some complications we didn't account for. The room grew grim and Lord Sitri paled. What, nothing serious, sir. He waved his hand trying to alleviate the room's mood. But we did notice something off about your son and ran some tests to see if we can explain it. But your son and wife are waiting for you in the other room, and you all can go and see them. Without hesitation, Lord Sitri and his daughters rushed into the room first and quickly saw them. His wife was lying in bed with her arms wrapped gently around a small blonde-haired boy who was snoring away lightly. Honey? Andrea Sitri turned and motioned them all over and showed off her newest child. Please say hello to Naruto Sitri. The Sitris marveled the arrival of their now youngest member and saw he was breathing very lightly and were concerned. Mom, what is wrong with little brother? Andrea frowned. I am not sure, serafall, but the doctors said that something was wrong and have been trying to figure it out. They don't think it is life-threatening, but they are being through. Lord Sitri sat down on the bed next to his wife and asked, Can I hold my son? The woman narrowed her eyes and gently handed him his son, who he held close to himself, and saw him yawn. Lord Sitri thought it was adorable. Hello there, son. I am your father, and I promise I'll be there whenever you need me, and I'll make sure whatever your desires I will help you reach them. The child, hearing a new voice, opened his eyes and revealed dazzling blue eyes that seemed to be staring up in curiosity at the bearded man. The child clapped his hands and laughed lightly at the man, and he could only smile and held a finger to the child's face, which it grabbed. The child looked at the finger in curiosity before putting it into his mouth and starting to nibble on the finger to understand what this weird thing is. Serafall pouted, and while the others didn't notice it, Sona was pouting as well, but she was more discreet by just having her eyebrows drooping slightly. Come on, Dad, don't hog him, I want to hold my youngest sibling. Lord Sitri looked at his daughter and frowned before hearing his son cough. Are you all right, son? Honey, he can't talk. The man flushed at this comment. The child's breathing grew shallow again and he seemed to regulate himself. That is when a doctor walked into the room with a grim look on his face. "Lord and Lady Sitri, I figured you two would like to hear what we discovered while in privacy instead of everyone in the room." The Sitris frowned and the Lord handed his son back to his wife, who quickly cuddled him to her bosom, and he seemed to relax against the faint heartbeat. "What is it? Sir and ma'am, there is no easy way to say this, but your son is physically weak." "What do you mean by that?" The doctor held his hand up, trying to placate a now angry serafall who glared at the poor man. Ice was about to form, but she was reined in by her father. "Please explain, doctor. You see, we ran a test on your son and found that his body is physically weak. He won't be able to do most things other children take for granted, and even as an adult he won't be able to do most things without a great amount of effort. I am afraid your child was born with a very weak body and that it will only improve enough for him to be average physically. Even flying will be almost impossible for him. I am terribly sorry." The family paled and serafall started tearing up while Xavier gripped his fist, starting to draw blood, while Andrea had tears in her eyes. Her son would not have an easy time, as a weak body meant he wouldn't be able to handle the day-to-day pressures of everyday living without a great amount of effort, and that means the other families might mock him for it, while most would not do it due to alliances. Some might try to take shots at him through their own children, and knowing serafall, she wouldn't stand for it. The doctor, seeing their looks, he quickly flipped his chart and smiled. "But there is some good news." The room turned to the doctor. "While your son seems to have a weak body, but that is only due to the massive amount of mana that is in his body. Right now, it is only leaking out enough to seem about average for a baby, but in reality, he has reserves that are on par with most ancient devils. I think it is due to his body suppressing the magic. It wore his body out before it can fully form." "But can't you just remove the excess mana from his body?" Serafall had heard of devils and other races doing this all the time, and the process, while tedious, does help when it starts to affect someone's health. Mana was similar to blood doping. The more you have, the heavier you feel, and in time it can affect your overall health if you don't learn to control it. Sadly, control of massive power like this is almost impossible, and the only reason her brother is doing it is that his body is fighting to keep him safe, which is almost unheard of as a baby. "Well, normally yes, Lady Leviathan, but the problem is, if it is money," Milik started. "Rest assured I'll pay any amount if that means my son can live normally. I am not ashamed of him, but I will do what I can to help ease his life." "Sir, it is not money that is the problem, it is your son." He pulled out a chart and showed them graphs of the mana waves in his body. "You see here?" He pointed to one point on the graph where the power drops. "While we removed most of his mana about an hour ago, it seems to have replenished almost as quickly as we took it. Even faster given the small quantity. Might change when he gets older, but for now his magic seems to be replenishing so fast that it is impossible to remove the mana from his body without replacing it almost as quickly." He sighed. "I am afraid your son seems to be the perfect devil when it comes to generating mana like an infinite battery, but sadly this comes at the cost of his body. I wish there was more we could do, but at this time we just don't have the means to help your son other than helping him get specialized equipment to help move around." "You mean a wheelchair and crutches?" Andrea was crying while holding onto her son, afraid as if he might just disappear in the second she let up. "I am sorry. I really wish there was more we could do for him." Serafall touched the doctor's shoulder after putting Sona on the bed with her father. "It's okay, sir. We understand and we know that this is a lot for you. Please could you let the others know we can see them, but to be careful?" The man nodded his head and walked out while uttering, "I'll contact my cousin Ajuka, maybe he can help, but I can't promise anything else." The Sitri heard the door shut and soon silence engulfed the room, preparing for the appearance of the others and explaining that their son, while magically gifted, would be forever a weak-bodied devil. 5 years later, Naruto woke up in his bed. Rubbing the sleepiness from his eyes, he looked at his right and saw his sister Sona sleeping peacefully next to him. The 8-year-old had grown and was much taller than him, but given the age difference it was obviously going to happen. Pulling his arm free of his sister, he quickly pushed himself with a grunt to the side of the bed and saw a pair of metal crutches next to him. Grabbing one, he wrapped it around his left arm and then moved onto his right arm before pushing himself off the bed. Moving his arms, he was able to move slowly across the room to the bathroom and sighed. Another day in the underworld, I guess. Naruto was aware that his family treated him like paper. Ever since he was a baby, crawling, walking, and running were so difficult for him, and he was not sure why for quite some time. When he turned 4, his parents explained it to him, and while he didn't get it at the time, he eventually was able to wrap his head around it and knew that the reason they were worried was due to his frail body. He couldn't move around too much or he would exhaust quickly. He couldn't go long distances without exhausting himself, and flying was impossible for him as his wings couldn't support him. There was magic, but he hadn't developed enough to use it. The worst part about all of this was his family's overprotective nature. His mother had literally carried him around until he was 3. His father always had a servant following him somewhere, and they were always reporting on what he did and even preventing him from training physically. To this point, the most he could do was walk around on crutches and run a very short distance before he gets too tired. At this point, doctors estimate it would take him until his 20s to reach the peak condition in which he can just move and run normally without overexerting himself. Naruto. Hearing his sister's voice, he rolled his eyes and limped to his sister, who had a frown on her face. Sona was wearing a pair of black and blue PJ bottoms and top, and she seemed on edge. "I am right here, Sona. No need to scream. Everyone doesn't need to be awakened this early in the morning." "Well, you should have told me if you were going to the bathroom or something. I could have helped you." Naruto rolled his eyes as she puffed her cheeks and turned from him. Naruto waddled over to her and sat down on the edge of the bed while breathing heavily. "Yeah, it really sucks to be so limited. So, what is on schedule today, sister?" "Well, I think Mom and Dad have some guests coming over from the Phoenix clan and the Gremory clan. Apparently, they are meeting up with our parents about request or something." Sona shrugged her shoulders. "I don't know the full details, but I guess later we'll find out." Naruto nodded his head and pushed himself back to his feet. "Okay then, let's head down. I am sure that the table is set for breakfast." "Wait up." After walking down the stairs in the case of Naruto, assisted by one of the maids, Naruto and her arrived in the dining room, where they saw their father reading some paperwork at the table while their mother had set out the dishes for everyone. Andrea was insistent that she was able to care for certain things in the house and claimed the dining room as the one place she will have full control of outside of her own bedroom. "Morning, children." Andrea smiled brightly at her two children. Sona bowed to their mother, but Naruto returned with a smile before they took their seats. "Morning, mother. Sona told me we have guests coming today?" "Yes." Xavier looked up from his paperwork and smiled. "The Gremory clan and Phoenix clan are coming over for a visit and to ask for a favor." "Which one though?" Naruto tilted his head. "I mean, are both of them looking for something from us, or is it just one family or the other?" "Well, you both will have to wait and see." Naruto frowned. "Is Riser coming?" Sona frowned and gripped her utensils tightly while Xavier frowned. "No, I made it quite clear that he is not to come into my home after that last little stunt." Andrea growled. "Should have killed the little shit. I don't care, he is the son of one of my best friends. That asshole dared." She growled and walked out of the room with the servants giving her a wide berth and Naruto shaking his head. His family was childish at times. It is a wonder they are all considered super serious. If he was honest, he was the most down-to-earth of his family, or netherworld, he guessed. Next was his sister Serafall, if you can believe it. "I still remember what she almost did." Flashback. Naruto, only 4 years old, was really overwhelmed. This party was going off and it was scary for him since his mother had been dragged off by her friends while his father wandered off to talk politics with one of the family heads, but he was not sure who. Sona was off with Rias, who dragged her off, and she could guess the reasons given that she always sought them out in events like this. As for Serafall, he was not sure where, but he knew she was in the room. Naruto felt someone bump into him and he turned his head to see a blonde-haired child, and she frowned looking at him. "Watch where you're standing, peasant." Naruto frowned. "She is about my age, might as well play nice." "Sorry, I was just standing here, so how rude of me walking into you." The girl growled. "Are you mocking me?" "No, but my name is not peasant, it is Naruto Sitri." Hearing this, the girl paled a bit and bowed. "Oh, my Lucifer, I am so sorry. I didn't know. I mean, I heard some of the rumors from my brother, but I didn't know if any of them were true." Naruto shook his head while balancing himself on his crutches to look at her. "It's fine." Naruto waved off, balance being difficult as he visibly wobbled. Revel gasped as Naruto started to teeter too far to the left, and reflexively moved forward and grabbed Naruto as he was about to fall. "Are you okay?" Revel asked as she felt a rush of adrenaline flood her system. "Yes, thank you, you saved me." Naruto thanked as he took notice that some of Ravel's hair came undone. Reaching up, Naruto pushed the hair back into place, making Revel blush as she let him do it. "Who the fuck are you?" Naruto turned his head to see a blonde-haired teen walking, more stalking up to him, and he quickly grabbed Naruto by the front of his dress shirt. "Did you dare lay your filthy hands on my sister?" "No." Naruto was nervous. This was getting out of hand and he was not sure how to handle this given he couldn't move much. "Brother, stop. This is Naruto Sitri. Our parents warned us not to dare lay a finger on him." The teen sneered. "Why should I bow to a lower-class pure blood that can't even stand on his own 2 feet? The smirk darkened and before Naruto could react, he had ripped off his crutches and threw him across the floor, leaving Naruto moaning in pain. He tried to stand up, but Riser just walked up to him and gently put his foot on his back. "How pathetic. A so-called pure blood and you can't even handle this. I am surprised your parents didn't just banish you for all the shame you bring to our kind." Revel, noticing the room was turning their attentions to them and some were getting nervous, She tried to pull on her brother's clothes to get him to back off. "Brother, stop, you're making a scene." The teen sneered again, but seeing Naruto reaching out for his crutch stomped on his wrist, and this was the breaking point. Naruto screamed in pain, tears swelling from his eyes as the pressure on his wrist, and this caused everyone in the room to stop, and in seconds everyone parted like the Red Sea. Why would they? The room got colder. "What are you doing to my brother, you fucking shit?" Riser turned his head and saw Serafall Leviathan standing there, the room giving her a wide berth, and more so, the air turning very cold to the point that water, fruit punch, and alcohol was turning to ice. Everyone saw the fury in her eyes, and it was not one where she was magically making people disappear, but the one that said, "Fuck with me and you'll wish I killed you." Riser, either too arrogant or uncaring, sneered and snorted before pulling his foot from Naruto's now broken wrist. "I was just telling this brat to not touch my sister, but then again, any pure blood that can't handle something like this is not worth his blood," Riser explained as Revel knelt down to help Naruto sit up, careful to not agitate his injury further. The room was quiet, and some were whispering, and Revel heard a few comments. "He's dumb, why would he do something so shameful? He has a death wish. Serafall has killed people for less. This is the hope of the Phoenix clan after Ruvel? I would bet my money his sister is a better devil than him. You know, I heard rumors he is a sexual predator. I am going to stop inviting the Phoenix family over to my manor if this is how he treats allies." Revel was getting worried. Her parents' standings were going to take a massive hit because of what Riser was doing. "Brother," Riser found himself embedded in the wall on the other side of the hall, where he was standing. Serafall had her hand extended in a slapping motion. "I am going to rip your fucking skin off, and I am going to smear you all over the fucking walls," she bellowed. Flashback ends. Naruto shuddered as he remembered his sister did what she said she would, and thanks to his healing factor, he at least survived the incident, but it took Sirzek, Graphia, Ajuka, Falbium, both of his parents, and other nobles to stop her. When word got around about what happened, Serafall made it clear that she never wants to see the Phoenix clan around her, or she would kill them on sight. Consequences be damned. His father and mother, well, they banned them from their home for the foreseeable future, and while they did maintain a friendship with the clan heads and their other children and servants, they didn't forgive them for what happened. Today was an exception as they begged to talk to them about something important. Sona held disdain for the clan in general for what they did, and while Naruto has let go of what happened, not blaming the family for one incident, he knew that his family was super scared something like that would happen again, which is why they are so strict and attentive to the point of smothering. The family continued on with breakfast until it was time for Naruto and Sona to head off to their studies, and while Naruto didn't enjoy it as much as Sona did, he did find certain parts of history interesting, such as the different forms of magic and spells that are out there in the world. He dreamt of the day he could maybe recreate some of the spells and find his own talent with magic. But that was a dream for another time. Afternoon. Naruto and the family were gathered in the main dining room with his sister and mother sitting at his sides while he was facing the Gremory and Phoenix family. "It is good to see you, Lord Sitri," Jonathan Phoenix, a blonde-haired blue-eye man, greeted. The man knew that nothing was the same after what Riser did, and that the relationship the family had at one time was gone, and all that was left was the barest amount of trust and respect from their time together. "Yes, it is good to see you, Lord Phoenix. I see things are still going well for you." Jonathan sighed. "Actually no, you see, we have a new problem that has emerged, which is one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you all, in particular the Sitri family." The family raised an eyebrow at this. Jonathan nodded his head to the right, and next to him was a black-haired woman that looked to be just about 18 years old. It was hard for Naruto, but he couldn't keep a blush off his face. She was incredibly beautiful, and she seemed to carry herself in a manner similar to someone that was worthy of respect, something that stirred something in Naruto's stomach. The woman had a serious face and was holding a stiff posture while dressed up in a black suit. She carried herself as a high-status woman, and a very serious one too, given how she was holding a small glare at everyone in the room. Her dark brown eyes narrowed on Naruto, and he didn't flinch, just stare straight into her, and she huffed, turning her head to the side, confusing him. "Did I offend her? Everyone, I am sure you're familiar with Chifuyu, right? She is one of our servants at our home?" Jonathan asked. Xavier nodded his head. "Yes, I do. Well, we were hoping that the Sitri family would take her in." This shocked the room, and Chifuyu just kept her head turned. "What brought this on?" Zeoticus wanted to know, as this is an unusual request. "Well, you see," he sighed. Riser, Andrea growled, but Jonathan ignored it, "has been acting out more and more lately, and he tried to do something unforgivable on Chifuyu. Now, we have to send her away in the hopes that if she is here, then she won't have to worry about him." Andrea growled darker, putting her hands on the table. She stood up. "Absolutely, sure." The room went silent and turned to Naruto, who was looking at everyone. "I mean, there is no real reason we can't take her into our household, plus, I could maybe use some help with moving around the house when everyone is busy, so this could work." Everyone was shocked, but Sona and the others were annoyed about the idea, as it did make sense. They can't always be there to talk or help him, but they were not sure if they could just trust Chifuyu with him. If there was one thing that Naruto did well, it was poking holes in people's thoughts when emotions are high. Naruto was a Sitri after all. Chifuyu stared at the child and just settled for a neutral look. At least he is not pervert. Well, Xavier mumbled as he ran his fingers through his hair, if Naruto thinks it is a good idea, I guess we can take her on as a personal attendant to Naruto. Are you alright with this, Ms. Chifuyu? The woman nodded her head. Yes, just tell me what I need to know, and I'll carry out my post. The room could feel the coldness in her voice, and Sirzek had a shiver go up his spine at a scary thought. Please don't come to Grafia for training. I don't think Naruto could survive a dark hair version of her. Grafia smacked her husband, no real reason, but she felt he needed to be smacked. The room agreed on the matter, and after a few more minutes of talking about non-important stuff, the children were sent out of the room with Chifuyu. Sona was about to talk to Naruto, but without warning Rias grabbed her hand and shouted. Come on Sona, I wanted to play some chess with you and I think I am going to win this time. But wait, I have to. No chance to counter. Sona was gone. Naruto turned to Chifuyu and smiled at her. I'll be in your care now Chifuyu, please take care of me. The woman stared at the child and sighed. I'll be in your care though, sir. Naruto shook his head and turned from her while slowly moving on his crutches, making Chifuyu watch his movement closely. Sloppy and using more strength in a single movement than needed, but it looks like he healed properly after having his wrist almost broken by Riser. She did smile. At least he is a sweet child compared to that pompous man-child. You coming, Chifuyu? Naruto turned his head. I mean, I was going to show you to where the living quarters in the house are, and since you'll be taking care of me, you get a room closer to mine in case of an emergency. Chifuyu quickly followed on Naruto and soon followed the child through the hallway while taking in the different atmosphere of the house. While rich, the Sitri home had a more toned-down feeling to it. No flashy artwork or paintings, the house felt like a home for people and the servants while wearing maid and butler outfits. They seemed to be doing this of their own volition instead of being forced like they were with the Phoenix home and other homes she was forced to visit during her time. Although she did see some servants wearing normal clothes while wearing an emblem of the Sitri family, and they're just smiling and having a wonderful time. The house was a breath of fresh air to Chifuyu, and if she was being honest, it was nice to know she wouldn't be required to wear a maid outfit where her skirt had to be a certain length just for the teasing and entertainment of a man-child. Here is your room, Chifuyu. The woman looked up from Naruto and into the room and was surprised by how expansive it was compared to her old one. Also, it seemed to have a private bathroom and shower and closet, which was a nice since she didn't have that with the Phoenix home. Riser was insistent on that, stating, a servant has no right to such things. As long as Riser commands it, you shall never need those things. Besides, why would you want something that would make it inconvenience to me when I need you? Chifuyu knew that was shit. He did that specifically with some members of the staff just to perv on them. While they were flattered with such behavior, she would rather eat holy light directly from God than be with him. But seeing the room, she couldn't help think, I am already liking it better here. Hey Chifuyu, the woman turned to Naruto. Yes? Can I ask for a favor and you not tell my family about it? She raised an eyebrow. Depends on what it is. I want you to help with my physical training. The woman raised an eyebrow. Why though? Don't you already have trainers? Naruto shook his head. No, ever since the Riser incident my family has been paranoid of my body breaking at the slightest thing. So, I have no training whatsoever and it is very annoying. But you, he smiled at her, you don't have that same feeling of constraint. I want someone that will help me reach new goals and to improve enough to where I can do normal things without being completely winded all the time. I want to make my family proud of my own accomplishments, and I can't do that if I don't start pushing myself further and seeing where my real limits are and then breaking them. Chifuyu frowned. I am not a gentle trainer, kid. You should know that I am going to push your body more and more as time progresses, and I can see you're ready for a little more. Are you sure about this? Naruto stared into her eyes. Yes, I will not be a burden to my family, no matter what. I want to be as great Sitri, like all members before me. Chifuya's eyes widened for a second as she saw a black-haired child sitting in Naruto's place for a split second before wiping her eyes. Chifuyu? It's fine, if it is all right, we'll start tomorrow. The 5-year-old smiled brightly. Great, I can't wait. He turned from her and started hobbling away, leaving the woman to close the door to her room and collapse to the floor, tears flowing down her face and her heart constricting. Ichika, I am sorry I failed you, but I won't fail this time, I promise. Lord and Lady Sitri were watching the progress of their children. Sona, who currently is 12, is standing out among her family with demonstration of strategy and water magic. She seemed to be at a higher level than normal for her age, but she still needed more refinement and improvement, but still they couldn't argue with the results as she was still a little bit ahead of the curve when it came to others her age. Naruto, on the other hand, he was demonstrating greater depth of knowledge and a lot more physical improvement compared to where he was 4 years ago. Shifuyu had kept her word to Naruto and she started pushing his body more than what he was already doing, and it was slowly starting to show in his progress. He still was struggling to fly for long periods of time and was struggling to move his body long distances for extended periods of time, but he was doing much better now, so much so that he can spend about half an hour just walking on his own without assistance before he becomes too winded and needs a break. Same with flying, he can fly for about the same amount of time. But it was magic they noticed he seemed to shine in. Compared to Sona, Naruto seemed to take to magic to a much higher level than normal, and it was terrifying. By the time he was 8, he already had mastered some of the basic forms of magic and was able to cast them with nothing more than a thought, or if he needed to animate something he just had to stare at it. Naruto learned very quickly how to cast water magic, and while the family was happy he was taking after them in this regard, he stated. This is not enough. Naruto started brushing up on other elements and other forms of magic. In particular, Naruto studied lighting magic, wind magic, earth magic, fire magic, and producing raw mana without making it into an element. The later is something he's still working on, but he had at least 5 spells for each element and some are given different roles to perform. For example, earth magic he mostly uses for defense, but he can manipulate the slab of earth if he concentrates enough to use it as a means to create traps or even use as an offensive weapon. Lighting he can create powerful bolts that he can fire at almost anyone that comes his way, but he can also use the lighting to accelerate his thoughts and nerves so that he would react quicker to certain situation even if it makes his body more tired. These and so much more made the parents so proud of his growth and improvement, but the one thing that always bothered them was his desire to head into the human world. Apparently he grew interested in this realm during his time of reading about magic and studying the different forms of energy in the world. Wondering if it is possible to recreate some of the techniques either through magic or to recreate the energy by some miracle or by luck, but still his interest in the human world was something that they all noticed and something he talked with Shifuyu quite often when they were alone. She shared this information at the request of the parents, but she didn't always confide in them every single thing that he talked about with her. The parents, while happy of his interest, just couldn't accept it. They feared what this could mean and the danger that this would bring, but they knew that in time if they just sat there on their hands eventually who knows what would happen. Naruto, Sona, come here. Both children approached their parents and smiled. You two have exceeded expectations. Honestly, we are so impressed with how things are going. More. You both have shown such great growth that we know that it is about that time. Turning to Sona. Sona, you are about the age where it is time to start recruiting peerage members, so we are going to see Ajuka today to start on the process of getting your pieces. I think Rias is going to get hers soon, so it is all possible that you two will start at the same time. Sona nodded her head but narrowed her eyes. As far as she was concerned, while Rias was her friend, she was her rival and she wouldn't lose to her no matter what. Turning to Naruto, Xavier smiled while his wife just turned away. Naruto, while we have sheltered you from the world, we can't deny that your improvement is more than enough to convince us. You mean? Xavier turned to his wife briefly and then back to his son, who was frowning. Be that as it may, we have considered allowing you to go to the human world. Naruto smiled brightly and his eyes were literally glowing. But, Xavier held his hand up, you are not to go alone. Shifuyu will go with you along with one member of our peerage and one from serafall. Agree to this and we will allow you to go to the human world. Naruto tilted his head and thought it over, before smiling. Okay, I can agree to that, father. I mean, I knew I would be escorted, but I guess I can understand the reason for the large escort. Xavier nodded his head. Good, now then. He turned to Shifuyu, who was standing off to the side, and quickly bowed to the parents. Make sure nothing happens to him, understand? While I might have agreed to taking you in for my son's sake, that doesn't mean that I won't kill you if something happens to him, understand? Yes, I understand, Lord Sitri. Fear now, I shall make sure that Naruto is safe even if it costs me my life. The parents nodded and Naruto smiled. He literally was buzzing with anticipation, and the father, while happy to see this, he could see his wife biting her lip and he knew she was completely against this. If she had her way, he never leave the manor. He stay there for the rest of his existence trapped in this little bubble. But it is the one thing that they had to disagree on, and that was they can't shelter him forever and needed to give him a chance with the real world, otherwise, what is the point of letting him live with his defect? 2 hours later, Naruto was waiting by the main entrance hall. He was literally buzzing with excitement of seeing the human world for the first time. Finally he can start seeing more of the world, and maybe he start making plans of how to find more research for magic while he is there, or learning about new forms of magic that was not in his family's library. But he was a bit annoyed about the security he would have to take, and in his mind, his mother would most likely give the peerage member ridiculously strict orders and make sure he never did more than what they requested or had to do for the bare minimum, while on the other hand he was sure that serafall wouldn't do the same thing. She would probably do more. Hearing footsteps, Naruto turned on his crutches and saw that Shifuyu was standing there, but instead of her business suit or her maid outfit, one she rarely wear, She was standing there in a one black-piece jumpsuit of some sort. The thing hugged her figure tightly and showed off her curves, her bountiful chest, and her seemingly amazing allure. Naruto couldn't help but blush, but he quickly shook it off, not wanting to seem like a pervert, but he did question it as he was not sure that was a battle outfit he could get behind. Next to her was a maid. She was short with short silver hair and red eyes. She is considered more of what he knows Japan would call them, lolicons. She was fairly petite and as tall as him, if not slightly taller. Next to her is a very tall figure. The man had on a black tank top and black pants to match the top. On his feet were sandals, and the man had quite the terrifying look about him. He had blue fish skin, white eyes with black pupils, and had spiky black hair that was standing straight up. The man is carrying a large bandage-wrapped sword, and he had a sharp grin on his face. In short, these two were Sitri, a maid that worked for his parents and one of the most feared figures in their entire peerage, given her strength is on par with anyone in Sears X peerage easily. The other was Kisame Hoshigaki, a feared figure from his sister's peerage, currently serving as her knight. Apparently he belonged to some kind of fish yokai group and was regarded as the most ruthless of his kind and carrying their people's most sacred sword. From what Naruto knew about the man personally, he was considered a monster in battle and feared for his swordmanship. He even had some trick that allowed him to summon sharks to assist him in battle if necessary. But putting this aside, he bowed his head to them. Thank you all for coming with me to the human world. I promise we won't be doing anything too crazy, but I still want to explore the world to my own content. Chifuyu nodded her head. Yes, it is your request, but I still insist you listen when we ask you to stand back, Naruto-sama. While alone she would call him Naruto, with others she does the proper title. Indeed, Sitri did a small formal bow. It is my greatest hope that we can enjoy this time in the human world and possibly satisfy your curiosity. Rest assured, on my name and title I shall ensure your safety even at the cost of my own. Now there is no need for that. Naruto waved his hand in front of him while balancing on his crutches. Just you being here gives me great confidence, and you as well, Kisame. The man grunted and sighed. Look, your sister asked me to come along. It doesn't mean I am going to kiss your ass, got it? Chifuyu glared, and Sitri already had her knives in her hand. Oh dear, have you forgotten your place? It would seem that being turned into sushi is just what you need. Kisame smirked. Come on, little maid, I'll shave off more of your height since there is nothing else to shave off. Sakura's eyes started glowing more and soon the ground started to crack. Naruto sighed. Everyone, are you ready? The two ignored him for a glare match while Chifuyu nodded her head. Yes, we shall depart now. Soon the four of them teleported out of the underworld and soon arrived in the human world. Naruto looked around and saw that they were in some forest region he didn't know, and he was fascinated by the feel of the place. Amazing, where are we? It feels so alive. His eyes were sparkling and Sitri was giggling at the sight while Kisame rolled his eyes. Chifuyu looked around. It would appear we are somewhere in Japan from what I can guess, not sure why though. I guess it is the safest place to explore for devils wanting to see the human world for the first time. Kisame laughed. Yeah, until that bitch Yusaka finds out about this and might throw a fit. I swear that uptight whore really can be such a pest. Naruto looked at Kisame with concern, seeing just how agitated he was talking about this woman. Is she a bad ruler or something? Kisame growled. I guess if you like living in peace and all that shit, then nah, she isn't a terrible leader. I just don't like her for my own personal reasons, let's just say. He turned his head. Look, let's just get this shit going. I don't want to be sitting on my ass for this trip. Naruto nodded his head and using some magic sealed away his crutches into some runes he made into his arms. He luckily can summon them underneath him whenever he needed them, but for now he was going to try and get some more walking done and maybe some flying if he was up to it. Okay, so I guess we should head. Naruto turned around for a bit and soon pointed north. Go this way. Naruto soon started walking with Chifuyu quickly rushing to his side and the other two standing behind them. Chifuyu looked around the forest and was sensing anything that was making any form of movement, and she was watching for the slightest threat. After all, her life is tied to Naruto and she would be damned if she failed in this job. After coming to the mansion, her life was better than ever. She was given a good wage, a comfortable room, freedom of clothing to wear during the day, and she had the best young master she could ask for. With Riser you had to be worried he would ask you to suck his dick or if he would want you to bend over so he can look up your skirt. Naruto? He was sweet as a child and seemed to be more curious about things and wanting to learn rather than fancying free peep shows with her. Chifuyu remembered one time she accidentally flashed him with her skirt and he had no reaction to it other than mentioning, "Isn't it that uncomfortable literally digging between your cheeks? I mean, how do you walk?" Normally she would hit someone for asking about her choice of underwear, but his was natural curiosity. Plus he was 7 at the time, so she couldn't really hold it against him. Naruto was taking in the scenery and noticed the difference of the air and feeling the world around him. After spreading his magic around to feel for all things within a certain range, He could only feel up to a few feet in front of him and it was only limited telling him what was there, nothing beyond that. But soon he felt something and saw movement passing through his field. They are moving fast, whoever it is must be being chased by something or someone. Naruto quickly grew out his wings and flew into the sky, the others seeing this quickly followed and Naruto looked around on the ground. There he saw a small blonde girl running for her life and she seemed to be wearing some kind of white robe garment that had some golden accents on it and seemed to be signaling something of nobility. But behind her was a couple of men who while being much older he could tell they were up to no good, they were armed with holy weapons and were just chasing this poor girl and she seemed to be showing exhaustion. Making a hasty decision, Naruto released a powerful fireball in the direction of the warriors with the holy weapons. One sees the attack and tries to cut it with his sword, having sensed the demonic magic. Sadly, the weapon fails to cut through all of it and it kills one of the men. Flying into the field of vision, the group floated there for a second. The girl glared at them. The men who were still alive are staring at him and then sneering. "Devil, how dare you interfere in our affairs? Leave now or be punished by the wrath of humanity." "Oh?" Naruto turned to the young girl. "Are you allies of theirs, miss?" The girl growled, "Who I am and what I am aligned to is none of your fucking business. A king doesn't answer to someone like you." Naruto looked in confusion. Chifuyu glared. Kisame laughed. Sakuri was glowing with a pink aura around her. "King?" Naruto looked at her closely. Aren't you sure you don't mean queen?" The woman scoffed. "Please, while I am female the truth is I am the one true king, the descendant of the first king humanity has ever seen. All will behold the splendor of the one true ruler of the heroes." Naruto could literally see the girl glowing with gold around her and having sparkles around her face. Naruto was not sure what else to say, so he turned back to the men from before. "So, it would seem the young king has no interest in you guys and since we don't really have any business with you either you can leave." The men growled. "What makes you think you can speak to us, you lowly devil?" "Yeah." The man pulled out a pistol and aimed it at Naruto. "You're just disgusting filth that was created to be used as a testing tool for humanity." He fired a bullet from the gun and Naruto saw traces of holy magic on the bullet and was thinking about dodging the bullet. However, the bullet never reached him as Chifuyu appeared in front and with a magic circle summoned a long saber sword that had a white luminous light. "What? How do you carry one of the holy swords of the great European heroes? Heathen! You dare use such a legendary weapon, you shall be tried for your sins." Naruto looked at Chifuyu and then at the saber sword in her hand. It was a beautiful weapon with its long single blade, the round pummel on the handle, the black wrap around the grip of the sword, and the marking across at the end of the pummel. All in all, the weapon was quite majestic and Naruto could see something written into the metal guard of the weapon but he was not sure what it said as it looked like gibberish to him. Chifuyu didn't wait, she was gone in a blur and was crouched behind the man with the blade pointing straight ahead. Silence. The men's bodies soon exploded with bloody holes all over them and collapsing to the ground with a thud. Everyone was surprised but none more than Naruto. "Whoa." Floating down she sent her weapon away. "Chifuyu, I didn't know you had a powerful holy sword, I thought devils couldn't use them." Chifuyu shook her head. "I had an ability that allows me to use any and all holy weapons as far as I see fit, meaning I can use them all and have high resistance to holy energy and magic, even though I am a devil." Naruto nodded his head. "Impressive," Sakuri agreed. "Indeed, something like that is quite the talent. I think it'd be interesting to see what else you can do with this power and what changes you could make to the underworld." Kisame smiled. "Oh, when we get back we are sparring." Chifuyu snorted. "Fine, just don't complain when you lose." Everyone turned to the little girl who was now standing there with a glare on her face. "Not that I can't appreciate the assistance, but don't think for 1 second that I am in your debt or something stupid like that. I could have handled everything if you didn't get involved. I was just done running away." The group sweat dropped. Naruto coughed. "Right, well anyway," he smiled, "I am glad you're safe at least. Can you please tell me your name?" The girl smiled. "Very well." She stood proudly with one hand out. "Behold, inferior beings. You stand before the great Gilgamesh, descendant of the first Gilgamesh and the rightful ruler of Babylon. Also the first true hero of this world and the rightful ruler of humanity. You may all take great pleasure in my presence and consider this a great honor." The group just stared. Naruto he just couldn't wrap his head around this. "Man, and I thought my sister had an over-the-top intro. Wonder what other idiots do this for themselves." Nice to meet you, Gilgamesh." Naruto rubbed the back of his head. "My name is Naruto Sitri and these are my companions." He pointed to each. "This is Chifuyu, she serves as my personal attendant. This is Sakuri, she is a maid of my mother's. And this is Kisame, he is a knight serving under my sister." Gilgamesh smiled further, brimming with pride. "How interesting. You all seem quite capable. Very well, I shall thank you for helping me in this time of confusion." Thank you. You're welcome, so Gilgamesh, Naruto looked at her. What exactly did those guys want with you? I mean, they seem to be really desperate to get you for some reason. Gilgamesh snorted. Of course, lately there's rumors that some humans that are descendants of great heroes and legends are starting to gather together, supposedly to form some kind of faction of their own, and they wanted me to join. I refused, stating I had no interest in it, but as you can see, no is not something they wanted to accept as an answer. Naruto nodded his head. But where are you planning on going? The girl turned from him and soon he saw she was completely silent. Do you have nowhere to go? The girl's silence was his answer. Naruto's sweat dropped inside. Well, if you have nowhere to go, you are more than welcome to hide out in the Sitri family territory. The girl turned to him and narrowed her eyes. Why, so you can turn me into one of your fucking peerage pieces to use for your own sick twisted fantasy? Newsflash, I am only 9. So am I, the girl's glare continued. Okay, the truth is that you look like someone that could use a safe place, and all I am wanting to offer you is this place where you can hide and stay safe, you know. That way you can learn how to control your powers and learn what you need to, so that when you're ready you can leave on your own journey. Besides, he turned his head, I don't think these are going to be the last of the guys they send, and next time they might send someone really powerful. The girl frowned. She really hated accepting his point, but she couldn't refute. Your logic is sound, but still I hate the idea of owing someone something, and I refuse to be part of anyone's little chess game. I am a king first and foremost, and that is how it shall stay. Naruto nodded his head. I am sure that is fine. If we send you back with one of my family's peerage members, then we can avoid trouble with the rest of the family and can guarantee your safety. After all, Naruto laughed. Not too many people enter our land and we don't know about it, or let alone serafall doesn't know, and she tends to eviscerate those that come unannounced. The girl's sweat dropped. I see. She held her head down for a few seconds before finally sighing. Fine, I shall accept this gracious deal, but if you dare to go back on this, I shall show you the true wrath of my ancestor, and it shall not be pretty. Naruto nodded his head. Understood. Naruto soon turned to Sakura, who quickly bowed and teleported herself and the young girl back to the Sitri compound. Are you sure that is wise? I mean, many will seek her out? Naruto turned to Chifuyu and smiled. That's exactly why we should take her in. You see, it seems this hero group that she mentioned was seeking her. But considering we have not heard of her or her ancestors' powers, means that this is something that was kept under the radar. Hence, we take her in and protect her from the human faction. They either have to make it public who they are looking for and risk other factions to come and look for her, or they keep it to themselves and fail to find her, and considering it does seem this group is busier gaining more recruits ever really for themselves, I am not too worried about it. Plus, this earns more points if she sees I will keep my word, and thus possibly helping to build future relationships if she goes off to do great things in the future. Chifuyu looked at Naruto and nodded her head. I see, you really thought this through. Naruto laughed. Nah, I just thought about all of that just now, I just wanted to be nice. Kisame laughed. Ha, and for a minute you actually sounded deep. Chifuyu just stared at him and sighed. Understood. Chifuyu saw Sakura return, who bowed to Naruto. Young master, your parents have agreed to let Gilgamesh to stay on the premises at your request, but they do ask not to make this a habit of sending everyone to their territory as some kind of safety net for every single person on the run. Understood. I just wanted to move her away from here. Naruto turned his head. Now then, what are we going to do with the bodies? Kisame growled. I'll take care of this. Holding his hand out, he saw a blue circle appear, and soon, I shit you not, a group of bull sharks swam through the air, grabbed the bodies, and started eating them. Naruto was literally watching bull sharks swimming in the air eating a body. He wasn't sure what to make of this. Okay, well, that's one way to clean up a body. I know, right? And with this, he sprayed the area with a powerful blast of water and saw that all the blood and grime was gone, while the sharks disappeared in a poof, having eaten the bodies completely. No sign of us being here or them being eaten. Naruto nodded his head, and soon the four of them continued on their journey through the area. The four arrived on the outskirts of a nearby town, and upon entering the town, Chifuyu turned into her business suit, Sakura changed into a normal white dress that opened at the bottom, and Kisame. The dude just changed his physical appearance to a slightly tan complexion compared to the lighter skin complexion that is seen in Japan. But Naruto wasn't going to raise a question. Walking through the town, he took in the sights, the atmosphere, and the sensation of seeing all kind of things to see and buy. In fact, Naruto bought a few things of what looked like anime series based on magic, and even a couple of comic books and manga that had magic in them as well. He was hoping to find more inspiration for his future magical research, create more spells, and recreate some that are from other stuff. The three were happy he was having fun, but Kisame was getting bored, and he hated the fact that he was the tallest person there and people staring at him wearily. If he was honest, it was starting to get on his last nerve. After spending a few hours in the town, Naruto sighed, having had a blast. Okay, I think I am ready to go home now. I hope to make another trip here soon. Chifuyu smiled. Yes, this has been quite the adventure. Kisame rolled his eyes. All we did was rescue some snot-nosed little shit and buy a bunch of weeb stuff, nothing that fucking great. Sakuri glared at Kisame. You will not insult the young master and his enjoyment of today's events. Whatever washboard, the maid grew angry once again and soon the tension increased between the two, making Naruto sigh. Alright you two, that's enough, we should probably. Naruto stiffened. He sensed something nearby and he wasn't sure what it was, but he knew for sure it wasn't magic. Getting up from his spot, he took off in a fast walk with the others quickly behind him, with Kisame carrying the bulk of shit that he bought today. Rushing through the streets, he made it past the busy crowds, and even when switching to his crutches he worked his way to a nearby part of town. Apparently it was a slum territory and someplace where the illegal stuff happens and those that are stressed or poor go to do some more illegal and shady business. Naruto sensed another burst of the energy from before and quickly headed deeper into the slums. Chifuyu was literally right on top of him and followed him closely, wondering what had him on edge. She couldn't sense what he was sensing, but something was drawing his attention and he wanted to know what it is. After dashing through a few alleyways and Chifuyu having to literally break a few people's nose when they tried touching her, but then straight out obliterating this one dude's nuts for trying to grab Naruto and run with a creepy smile on his face. Fuck that dude. Naruto eventually felt a third pulse and soon arrived in an area near the outskirts of the slum and saw a group of people lying on the ground, with one standing there facing off against another. One was a dark-haired man with long wolf-like ears and yellow eyes, wearing what looks like a traditional yukata. In front of him was a woman. She is wearing a black sport bra-type top, short-fitting black shorts, black slipper shoes, and had on a white cape. She had spiky white hair, gold eyes, and a blank expression. The two of them were facing one another, with most of the people down wearing similar outfits to that of the wolfman. You bitch, how dare you refuse to accompany me? I am the richest werewolf in all of Japan. You should be grateful I found some use for a freak yokai like you. No thanks, not interested in your mess, the man growled and soon saw the devils standing there inside. Fucking really, everyone is interrupting my fun and seems to be poking their noses where their noses don't belong. He pointed his finger at Naruto. Devil, leave this area. This is a matter between me and my future kundum. Naruto didn't know what that word meant, but he could tell by Sakuri and Chifuya's expression it was a nasty insult. Pretty bad one, as he saw even Kisame, while normally would laugh at a boisterous man, he was glaring him down, looking ready to just straight up kill the man. Sorry to interrupt, but I am not here for you anyway. Naruto turned and pointed at the woman. I am here for her actually. Me? She tilted her head. Why, do you want me? Oh. Naruto waved his hand frantically while being red in the face. Sorry, I sensed your presence and power and I came to investigate it because I don't know much about the world, but I felt. Enough. The werewolf rushed at Naruto with his claws extended. You dare get in my way and then ignore me. For this sin you must die, as it is the least you deserve for your. A foot met his jaw and soon he was sent flying away, with Kisame standing there with an annoyed expression on his face. Naruto just watched as Kisame just beat the tar shit out of the wolf, and Sakuri joining him with a dark grin on her face and knives in her hand. Turning to the woman he smiled. How about we leave them be and talk somewhere else, is that alright, ma'am? The woman stared. She stared some more. Naruto started to sweat as she continued her ominous stare. Okay. Naruto sighed and soon the three of them left while the other two spent some time torturing the fuck out of the wolf that would never be named again. Naruto had settled into a small store off the beaten path and had ordered a handful of food and sweets. The woman stared at everything, shocked at the fine treatment she was receiving and not sure what to do. Naruto laughed a bit and smiled. Please enjoy yourself, Ms. Shiida. My name is Shiida. Ah, Shiida, what a nice name, but please enjoy yourself, you look hungry and this is the nearest place I could find with something to eat. The woman nodded her head and started slowly eating the food on the table, with a small smile breaking out at how good it was. Naruto was smiling at this, with Kisame and the maid returning from the werewolf noble's blood all over their faces and hands. He didn't want to know, but he was sure that the noble was dead and thus sparking maybe an international issue. Oh well, Naruto sighed. Now then, Shiida, was it? The woman nodded in mid-bite. I was wondering why that werewolf was hunting you. Obviously there is something important that he was looking for, but I can't understand what it was. The woman swallowed her food and tilted her head. I am a rare yokai. Oh. What kind? Bat yokai. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Never heard of a bat yokai before. Are they rare? The woman nodded her head. Yes, we are only seen in 10% of the yokai race. Mostly we live isolated from others due to our conditions. Conditions? The woman nodded before eating a strawberry. We have the power to use chakra differently than most, and we can even attain higher level of power thanks to senjutsu.
Ah, I see, so in terms of power and uniqueness you guys are treasured and sought after.
Yes, that man wanted me to marry him and have his children, in the hopes that the werewolf race will evolve thanks to this. Naruto frowned. Well, that is not how it would work. You would need more than just 1 or 2 children born of this kind of relationship. The woman nodded. Yes, I know, and that is why I refused. Naruto smiled. Well, either way it sounds like you had quite the eventual day. Also, it sounds like you're in danger the longer you remain in this city. Yes, I was thinking of moving to another town soon.
Naruto pulled his crutches and pushed himself to his feet.
I got an idea. If you'll trust me, we can let you live in the Sitri territory. Here you can have your own home on the property, live independently as you want, and when you are ready to leave you can leave and never return if it is your desire. Shida stared at him. Her eyes were burrowing into his, almost trying to see what his real intentions were and why he was making such an offer. Chifuyu and the guards groaned, knowing his parents are going to throw a major fit due to this. Mostly, he already had that arrogant girl moved onto the territory, but now he has invited a rare and almost never heard of yokai to do the same. It was like he was trying to attract all the negative attention. Why would you do that? Naruto wobbled over to her, his upper body not having them firmly planted under him. Well, you look like you need a safe place, and honestly, I guess you could say it is in my nature. I want to help those in need and make sure they have a choice of what they do with their lives like I want to have. I was born like this. He motioned down to the crutches, immense magical power but a weak body that will never fully heal or recover, but I didn't let that define me, and I refuse to leave those with great strength alone. Especially when they are being forced to do things they don't agree with. It's something if I can help prevent, then I will. Shida looked at the boy in question and nodded her head. I will go with you. I can sense you're honest. She gave a small smile that made the room almost light up, but Naruto just blushed a bit, making Chifuyu grip her fist a bit. Why am I getting jealous? It's not like I care about him in that manner. She shook his head. While Naruto has been kind and caring to her, she wasn't going to say that she had some romantic feeling for him, even though that is not true. She personally felt it was only right she feels something for him in terms of friendship, since he was one of the few that treated her like a person and not a sex object. Yeah, friendship, that's all there is. Shida quickly finished the remaining sweets and proceeded to join them outside, where Naruto activated his teleportation circle and they all found themselves back in front of the Sitri estates. Upon entering the room, Kisame sighed. I've got to report back to serafall. See you, brat, stay out of trouble. Don't need your sister using us as stress balls because of your fuck up. The maid glared as he teleported away but sighed. If you'll excuse me, Naruto-sama, I shall also retreat to inform my lady of your return.
Naruto and Chifuyu were left on the foyer for a few seconds until they saw his mother rushing down the hall greeting him.
Sochi. She quickly hugged Naruto tightly against her chest, making the room stare in shock or blankly.
Naruto was muffling something into his mother's chest, but she quickly removed him and sat him on the floor with a small glare.
Young man, who is this girl you brought here? She glared at Shida, sweating under the aggressive attention of the matriarch of the Sitri clan. Shida could feel the coldness in her gaze and was planning on running for her life as quickly as possible. She is a bat yokai I saved from being raped by a werewolf noble.
Naruto, if you are going to lie. Shida summoned her bat wings out of her back that stood out massively behind her.
She looked at the wings and raised an eyebrow before sighing. Sochi, you just happened to find a descendant of a hero and now a bat yokai, and you were only gone for a few hours. She rubbed her temple. This is too much, and this is just the first outing. Naruto smiled. Yep, it was exciting, so when can I plan my next one? She stared at him and sighed. Probably not for a while. We need to make sure that he werewolves won't come for the girl and that we didn't anger some unknown group with the capture of the hero, but for now, go see Sona. She has missed you terribly and wants you to meet her new peerage member. She already got one? Yes, this girl she met a few months back, I think her name was Tsubaki. She is a shrine maiden with a powerful sacred gear, I believe. Okay. Naruto hobbled past his mother with Chifuyu following and closely with Shida shuffling next to them out of fear and uncertainty. She had agreed to join his home, but she didn't think the whole place would be so intimidating to her senses if she was being honest. Going up a flight of stairs, Naruto and the girls arrived at Sona's room, where she is sitting there and conversing with a black-haired girl with purple eyes and blue glasses on her face. Ni-chan, Otto. She walked up and pushed her glasses up while staring at the girls behind him. He was never sure, but he could sense his sister didn't like them, but he is not sure why though. For Sona, however, she was more annoyed that Chifuyu was more developed than her and that this new woman had some kind of feral look for herself and was quite impressive in her looks. They were beautiful in different ways, and it annoyed her that her brother was spending so much time with them. So, Naruto wobbled over. This is your new piece? Sona nodded her head.
Yes, remember when I was gone for that summer a year ago?
Yeah, serafall ni was taking you all over the place to see different locations and other important stuff, right? Sona nodded. Yes, but she was also helping me find future peerage pieces which I found in Tsubaki. Not only is she powerful in magic and studies of using a spear, but she has a sacred gear as well.
Naruto smiled. Really, that is impressive. First peerage piece Sona ni.
The girl smiled slightly while pushing her glasses up, and Tsubaki just stared at Naruto. She was not sure what to make of this. She heard from her king that her brother was physically weak compared to most, and while she thought maybe he was brittle, she didn't think she meant needing crutches. It was a surprise to her, but she knew that staring was wrong given that she knew Sona couldn't protect her from those that would get mad about it.
Well, welcome to the Sitri household, Tsubaki. I hope you enjoy yourself. Naruto smiled at her and she smiled back with a bow.
Thank you, Naruto-sama. I will make the most of my time with my king and make sure to bring honor and prestige to the family.
Naruto laughed. No need to be so stiff. Your family enjoy it. Naruto turned to Sona. So I am sure you heard about my misadventure into the human world.
Sona nodded with a frown. Yes, Ka-san and Tu-san both received your guest, and while they are happy to provide her lodging on the property, they are worried what attention this will bring. Naruto nodded. Yeah, I was too, until I found out it is some kind of new formed group that is trying to be quiet, meaning they can't actively chase her down or they would risk being found out and exposed to the world before they are ready. So I think for now, she is safer here than in the human world. Sona nodded. Logical and sound idea. She pushed her glasses up and turned to Shida. But Ka-san didn't mention you would be bringing back another guest. Shida sweated. What did I do? Yeah, she was being harassed, and I might have had Kisame and the maid beat the shit out of the guy, and they might have killed him if what I am hearing is correct, meaning we might have a slight problem with the werewolves later, but Naruto shrugged as best as he could. What can you do? Sona sighed. One day your kind heart is going to get you killed. Naruto smiled. Well, that will be the day you will tell me I told you so. Sona frowned. Pray it is never a day that comes. Naruto nodded, and after settling in and talking to his sister a bit more, he left the room with a sigh. Geez, one bad trip and you think I assaulted heaven with the way they are talking. Chifuyu shook her head. Well, you might have caused an incident with the werewolf and the girl. I think they are right to be worried. Naruto nodded. I never said they didn't have the right, and I didn't consider this, but the reality with the girl is as I said. This is a secret group. They are trying to build up people, bring more people to their side and do what they can to increase their strength, meaning they don't have the force necessary to oppose people and are just now either forming or are too weak to be seen as a threat. The best thing I could do was remove her from the situation, as this will protect her and allow her to grow her strength in a safe area until she is ready to head back out. Chifuyu nodded. The logic made sense, but that didn't stop the situation with the... As for the werewolf, I agree that I might have been hasty with that situation and we could have tried to do something different, but at this point there is no point in overanalyzing the situation. If the wolf is dead, that means we just have to wait and see if there is backlash from it. There is? Then we deal with it as best as we can without starting a war. If not, then there is no point in worrying about a threat that might not come. But maybe they will become a threat down the line. If so, then we will deal with it. No point in worrying about what if scenarios when we don't know the path we are going to be following just yet. Chifuyu sighed and Shida looked around the hallway. She was not sure what to make of this situation, but if this meant she had a roof over her head and no one pursuing her, then she was fine with that. Plus it helped that the kid fed her and treated her with kindness instead of deceit, all the more reason to stay with him and his family. Walking down the hall, the group arrived at Naruto's door, where he motioned to Chifuyu he wanted to rest while Shida is shown another room next to hers. Shida looked around and admired the room itself, as it was just like Chifu's room. Hey, turning her head, Chifuyu stared. Listen, you can live in this room, but the family might require you to do some kind of chore around here. If you want to, you can join me in helping the young master train. Shida looked at her and all Chifuyu saw was some movement around her body, that very faint. I will consider it. She turned to the bed and laid down on the mattress. The minute she hit, her mind went blank and her eyes closed. She was gone. Chifuyu giggled a bit and shut the door. She reached for her door but soon saw Kisame standing there with his arms crossed and a grin on his face. What? Nothing. Amazing you would be willing to share the little master with anyone. I mean, haven't you already tried to stake a claim on him for when he is older? Chifuyu glared. I did no such thing. Besides, he reminds me of someone and I wouldn't dare think of him in that manner. Kisame shrugged his shoulders with a small laugh. Whatever you say. I might be a yokai, but even I can see when attraction happens. I mean, I don't understand the shit myself, but hey, to each is his own. He moved his head to the side when he found a white blade piercing the wall next to his head and Chifuyu glaring at him. I suggest you shut up about something you don't understand or misunderstood. Kisame laughed. Knew you were a fighter, quite the feisty one. Wonder if that means you're... The sword tore through the wall and was rushing to his neck. Kisame appeared on the other side of the hall and waved at her. Let's spar sometime soon. Be fun to shave off some skin and see if the kid still thinks you're sexy. Chifuyu growled before putting her sword away. Ridiculous, me in love with him? He is a child, I am an adult, there is no point. Eventually he'll find a fiancé or even another lover and well. Her heart hurt and she could only feel her chest constrict. The idea of him in love with someone else and her watching, it was a weird sensation. Damn it, now he has got me flustered. Chiayu, turning her head, she frowned, seeing one of the maids and them glaring at the hole in the wall. What is it? Lady Sitri and Lord Sitri wish to talk to you about the expedition and get your side of the story. She sighed. Yes, I'll head straight there. While walking away, the maid sighed, and with a little bit of magic the wall was no longer torn through. I swear this is a house, not a bar. In the office, Chifuyu relayed the events of what happened, and both the lady and lord were happy to hear consistency with all three of them. They did ask about the two girls and she stated that he saved them and they understood the situation. Both parents dismissed her and thanked her for her hard work. Serafall, on the other hand, she was a bit more of a handful at this moment since she was looking at the face of Kisame. You were supposed to make sure nothing came from the mess related to this little adventure. Kisame shrugged. Kids in One Piece know. You should have let him put himself in a position of danger. Why didn't you stop him? Kisame rolled his eyes. If I did, then those other two girls would have gotten in the way and he would have done it anyway. Serafall, you and I both know that no matter what I do it is all the same. He was going to help those girls regardless of my opinion on the matter. So why not help the kid instead of fighting him? Serafall glared. Fine, you have a point, but that doesn't excuse the fact that you almost exposed yourself to possibly the yokai faction. Kisame frowned. Yeah, well, I didn't, it was just a stupid werewolf and no one really got a good look at me anyway. I mean, we used an invisibility spell in places with humans and I didn't allow anyone to see my true skin tone, so it is fine. Are you forgetting yokai can see through those? He nodded. I know they can, but that doesn't mean much. Serafall sighed. Out of everyone in my peerage, you have been the biggest headache, I swear. Kisame stared at his king but kept one of his hands clenched in his pocket. Never again. I won't let it happen again. Kisame was laying on the ground bleeding while holding one of his arms, staring up at a woman bathed in light while having 9 golden tails waving behind her. Kisame, is there really no other way? Please. You never listened to us before, what is different now? They're the ones that are a plague on our people. I am trying to protect them from the abuse that we suffer while you stay safe in your fucking tower. Kisame, they are important and you know it. There are times their insight and knowledge is. Screw them. Screw them all. They say that shit just because you're too stupid to see they are manipulating you like they did all you other Kyuubi. Enough. Surrender and we can make sure you're spared. Spared? He grinned. Never again will I kneel. Kisame roared to life and lifted his sword with his one good arm and rushed at the Kyuubi in front of him, but other yokai rushed to her defense, but he slashed through most of them with only a few having a chance to hold him down. Kisame, please. The war has to stop, not until they pay, not until we are heard. I will see them in hell before I ever forget what they did. Then I am sorry, Kisame. For the safety of our race you shall be executed here and now. She raised her hand to fire a blast, but he growled and grinned. Don't leave blood out in the open for a shark. Kisame slammed his face into a puddle of blood beneath him and inhaled. Soon he roared to life and soon a large explosion of water ripped through the area. Kisame gripped his side and growled. Without warning he fled the room and Serafall sighed. While most of her peerage wouldn't dare do this to her and not fear her wrath, she knew the reason for his march off. In time can we really stop what is to come? She dearly hoped so. Naruto didn't know why his parents were so protective about this situation. Sure, he brought home a descendant of one of the oldest hero clans in the world, saved the life of a rare bat yokai with unique powers, and might have started a conflict with a werewolf clan, but was this really necessary? A month after his excursion and his sister bringing home her first piece, her queen Tsubaki, he was stuck at the house, basically told that he wasn't allowed out on one of his expeditions for a good while, mostly his sister Serafall's orders, but again he was sure his parents agreed. Chifuyu was busy with work around the manor and Shiida was still getting used to things, especially the comfortable beds. She fell asleep the first day she was here and didn't wake up until the next day in the afternoon. Shiida was horrified, but the family said it was fine as she was guest more than a servant, so she didn't really need to do anything. However, she was given the role of guarding Naruto as they felt she was well equipped for it. After sparring with some of the servants, revealing one thing that shocked them, she was strong. Physically she was strong enough to shatter boulders and able to move faster than the eye can perceive. She states that it is a clan thing, never elaborating more than that. Naruto knew there was probably more to it, but he was willing to let the matter lay. Naruto was exploring the house, bored out of his mind and not wanting to do another lecture with his mother and father. His sister loved the lectures, but when she wasn't in those she was spending time with Rias, who was over today. He was glad as sometimes she struggled to just break her trend of being stuck in a book all the time. Serafall on the other hand, Naruto. Turning his head he saw his excitable sister rushing down the hallway, he sighed. This never got old, she had his face smooshed into her breasts and was swinging him around with his crutches scratching the floor. Oh Naru, I am sorry your big sister hasn't come to see anytime sooner. Kisame Baka told me all about your adventure and I was very angry that he let you go through so much trouble. Then her eyes sparkled, but that's okay because now that means you can stay home more and I can see you more often. Naruto muffled something and Serafall looked down. Removing his head from her breasts he sighed. I understand sister, but should NTU be working? Naruto narrowed his eyes. One whistle and Ka-chan will drag you back to your office. Serafall shivered. Powerful she might be but their mother could still twist a ear. Don't be like that. I just wanted to visit in between, is that so wrong? Serafall was swinging her arms up and down and crying, tears going down her face in frustration. Naruto shook his head. I just don't want you getting in trouble, Ne-chan. Serafall smiled brightly, eyes sparkling. Oh, you're the most considerate little brother ever. Naruto rolled his eyes, she was so easy to please. By the way, she smiled, what are you up to? Nothing much, just looking for something to do. Sona is in the library playing with Rias and Tu-san and Ka-san are busy with some paperwork. Shifuyu is working and Shida I think is relaxing in her room. I see, she smirked. Any progress on the magics you want to explore? No, he sighed, it is frustrating. I want to make more progress but sadly nothing I do seems to work. I've mastered the 5 elements of fire, water, lighting, earth, and wind. I have great control over ice but I want to do more, but I am running into just basic theory and studies. I need something new and more tangible to work for. She nodded, that was a common misconception. People believe if you study in books and find a spell and learn how to create the spell, then they are growing stronger. In truth, mastery of magic is more about your creativity. Sona and Naruto were young so there was no rush but she could see he was frustrated with nothing advancing and she decided to give him a push in the right direction while also hoping to plant some seeds in the future. Well, if you want, I can show you something that can help. She held her hands out and a magic circle appeared in them. Soon a large stack of books and some DVD and Blu-ray discs appeared. There were quite a few but he was impressed with the amount present. What is this? Naruto reached up and read the first box set he found. One Piece. It had a goofy-looking guy wearing a straw hat on the cover and he was smiling. Naruto looked at his sister who was sweating. Is this a joke? Naruto really hated when his family tried to do stupid things and make him take up their hobbies. His mother tried to get him into gardening and cooking. While he did enjoy those, he didn't say those were his passions. His father wanted him in politics and learning about the underworld while also playing the more X-rated games he had stashed away. His mother beat the shit out of him for the later but he didn't deny he was curious. Politics though fun, he did find it kinda boring and annoying. Some things were just simpler if they just stopped putting so much thought into it. Sona wanted him to study with him, learn new things, and help with her dream. The later he is all for and he was willing to help but he did find studying and researching things already discovered to be boring. Especially since their family had an enormous library that seemed to stretch further than he can imagine. Plus he hated being in a library or some other cramped space, he preferred being in the open. Now this, his sister was giving him anime and manga, no doubt to get him involved in her TV show. Naruto, wait before you throw them, please listen. She held the stuff in her arms. This stuff is all about different kinds of powers and abilities that appear in the world. Traveling the ocean and learning how to increase your overall ability while surpassing your limits. Trust me, if you are looking for something to inspire you, I think this is going to be it. Naruto just stared at the stack and the disc in his hand and contemplated this. While it was true he was bored and he had no progress going on with his magic and he was taking a break from physical exercise for the next few days, he did need something to fill the time. He sighed before motioning her to follow him. Alright, I'll give it a watch, hopefully something in this stuff will inspire me. Serafall gained a glint in her eyes while skipping all the way to his room. There she would put the discs next to the player and have the manga by his bed. Okay, well, enjoy Naruto. Let me know what you think in a few days. She did her pose and teleported away. Naruto sighed and walked over to the TV with him, putting in the first disc and then situating himself on the bed. A week later, Naruto was watching Aokiji freezing Luffy's hand after he attempted to punch him in the face. His eyes lit up and his smile grew as the man covered himself in ice and seemed to be just manhandling the man that literally punched the shit out of a guy made of lightning. This intrigued him. So, in a practical sense, if you were to infuse ice into your body and catch an attack before it hits you or just as it is about to, you could freeze it and snap it off. He smiled. Interesting. Naruto hopped off his bed, put his crutches on, grabbed a notebook, and wobbled out of the room. Rushing down the hall, he found the door for Shiida's room and quickly knocked on it. The door opened and she was staring at Naruto. Her face was blank. not betraying what she was thinking. "Chiida, you free?" She nodded. "Great, listen, I have this little project I want to start and I was hoping you could help me out with it." She nods again. Naruto motioned her to follow, and she slowly fell in step behind him. Arriving at the training yard, Naruto quickly held his hand out and summoned 2 crates full of soft rubber balls. "Okay, so here is the deal. I wanted to work on a new project for ice magic, so all I need you to do is gently throw these balls at me. You can throw them up and have them come downward, but the goal is for me to freeze it, okay?" She nods. Naruto walks over to the other side and there he started using his magic. It formed a very thin layer of ice around him, barely visible, but that was the goal of the exercise, was to make an invisible barrier. Chiida took the first ball and after a second threw it up in the air. At the angle the ball would fall and hit his head. Luckily they were soft, so there was no concern. Naruto watched as the ball came closer and closer, falling at an accelerated rate. When he felt it pass through the barrier he quickly got to work, putting his ice magic around it and started freezing it. Then it hit his head. Damn it, he didn't do it quick enough. Okay, another one. Chiida threw another ball, this time it would land in front of him. Okay, I need to start the process as soon as it is close to the barrier. The ball hit his barrier and he started freezing the ball, but it hit the ground before he could completely freeze the barrier. He pouted, "This is harder than I thought." "Okay, keep going." Chiida nodded. More balls were thrown at Naruto and due to the different positions and angles he couldn't get a proper read on where he needed to intensify his magic and how fast he needed to work, or at least how to make it go faster. Finally his mother shouted that it was time for lunch and he had to put his work on hold to eat. Arriving in the dining hall he saw his sister and sat next to her, before pulling out a notebook and scribbling down a few things. "So, I need to find the proper timing when it comes to the magic output and I need to increase the overall speed in which something freezes. Now, different objects will call for different levels of power, but if I put too much into the barrier it will become visible, thus defeating the purpose of this exercise." Lord and Lady Sitri watched as he scribbled quickly in his journal and seemed to be muttering to himself. They looked at one another and wondered if they should ask. Sona on the other hand frowned as she saw him sweating. "Brother, have you been training?" "Yes," Naruto continued muttering to himself. Sona pouted. His project seemed to be really important. "Sochi, put the notebook away and eat." "Oh right, Ka-san." Naruto closed his book and put his pencil down before eating some of his food. Even while eating he was thinking out his theory and it was frustrating to him. How was this supposed to work? After his meal was finished he quickly hobbled out of the room excusing himself and proceeded to head back to the training field. Chiida, who had already finished, joined him in the field. There Naruto held one of the balls on the ground in his hand and frowned. "I know what to do in a situation I am holding something." He quickly freezed the ball over. "I get this part but I can't seem to find the timing when it is flying to me." Naruto unfroze the ball and threw it high in the air. Watching come back to down he quickly put his barrier up and started the freezing process before it could reach his hand. Sadly, it didn't work again and this time the ball was only partially frozen. Damn it, Naruto sighed. What am I missing? He really needed something in this mess but he couldn't figure it out. Maybe, Chiida held her hand up, maybe focus on one spot at a time. Naruto frowned and sighed. Yeah, I guess you're right, but then that also has issues that I could be hit with an attack from an angle I didn't expect. I need to address this and have instinct feedback on the fly, not just when I can see it coming or know what angle it's coming from. Chiida nodded before held her hand out. Maybe, the key is you should already have the process started around you, before the ball hits the barrier. Naruto hummed at this and unfroze the ball again, before throwing it up. There he did what Chiida suggested and created the barrier, but when he saw the ball coming downward he created a larger area of freezing, but this time, it was just enough to start the freezing process. Luckily this meant that the ball was completely frozen by the time it reached his hand. He smirked. Chiida, you're a genius, the woman smiled. I am glad I could help. Naruto nodded and they continued their training all through the afternoon. Naruto would manage it sometimes but more times he would fail. But Chiida reminded him that this is practice that he just started, so of course he wasn't going to get it. This was going to take some time to get right. He understood, but his frustration was more apparent in this situation. By dinner time, Naruto was done for the day and decided that after dinner he was going to watch more One Piece and hopefully get a better clue to his power. Chiida agreed to watch with him in hopes that she could be of assistance, and she was curious about this anime that she heard so much about while growing up. She never saw it even though she lived in Japan, but now she was interested. While at dinner though his parents noticed him writing in his notebook some more and eating more food than normal. They were concerned with his health but he seemed really focused on something. Sona noticed it too, but she didn't have the guts to ask as she felt that he found something to focus on and that was a good thing. While she wanted her brother safe she knew that he had to work harder and whatever he was working on was taking all of his brain power, which is a good thing, as now he wasn't just wandering around the house looking for things to do. Dinner quickly wrapped up and Naruto went back to watching One Piece. On the show he started from where Aokiji showed up and started examining how he did it. In a sense it was watching the master at work and how he was using his ice powers for defense as much as offense. Seeing he defeated the Straw Hats was impressive, but what impressed him more was the way he was stopping everything from hurting him. He was focused on defense and he was having incredible success. But then again the man did have a very relaxed personality compared to most. That still didn't explain his process. He made it like a thin armor, but it wasn't up when Luffy threw his strike, meaning that he just did it in a fraction of a second before covering his body in ice. So, does that mean that his control is that high? Naruto knew it was a show and that it was creation from the human world, but still, it was possible. He could feel it in his bone that he could reach the same level of control over his ice. But for some reason, he was missing a key component. Other than experience at least, he had something going for him in the sense of his power, but he wasn't 100% sure. Naruto lay back and sighed. What is it? She was fascinated by the show. She hadn't seen anything like this before and she could understand where her friend's fascination came from, but looking at it she thinks she understands what he is missing and what he is trying to accomplish. Are you trying to become an Iceman? Sorta. Naruto sat up from his bed, pausing the show. Right as Aokiji left. I know that unlike most people in the underworld I have to work twice as hard. I wasn't born with a normal body, but I have a ton of magic and a body that replenishes it faster than I can use it. He clenched his fist. So I need to start using my weakness to my advantage and think of other ways to fight in battle, but at the same time I have to come up with strategies for those that might find a way around me. So, you want to have offense and defense for people that get close. Exactly, Naruto focused on him. I feel that Aokiji is the secret, something about how he fights and the way he can use his powers. It feels like that it is the key to succeeding at my goal. He glared, but for some reason I just don't get it. How is he able to freeze on a dime like that? Both at long range but also at close range. He changed the distance of which he freezes things so fast you barely would register it. It could be that he doesn't have to think about it as much. He turned to her. She gained a small blush, embarrassed. Explain. Think of it this way. She held up one of the balls that she kept. Imagine that we work on this, but you can't freeze it enough because you began the process when it enters the barrier rather than before. Naruto's eyes widened. You're right. I am focused only about a set perimeter when in reality I should limit myself that much, but still, I need to have my timing down. Then, focus on a wider area, and then narrow it down, when you get further along. Naruto nodded. That made more sense. Maybe he just needed to take this one step at a time and focus on a larger domain area. That way he had more time to get the freezing time down and then he can shrink it once he is quick enough. This will work on his speed and precision. Even if he can't get the entire thing to freeze in an instant, it would still cause fear, and that is important in a fight. Naruto laid back on his bed and sighed. Man, the next few weeks are going to be rough. Can I count on you, Shida? The woman nodded and pointed at the screen. Do you mind if I continue to watch this? Naruto laughed. Nah, you can watch as much as you want, and if you want more stuff like it we can get it. Just ask, okay? He gave her a bright smile. After all, I want you to feel at home, okay? Shida's heart skipped and she turned blushing red hot. What was that? She shook her head and returned to watching the show with Naruto. Lady Sitri would come and check on her son when it got close to midnight, and when she opened the door was surprised. It would seem that the new woman that moved into their home was starting to become more comfortable, too comfortable in her taste. Her son's head was in her lap and she was rubbing his hair while watching the TV. Don't think you can just take my Sochi yet, you hussy. The Sitri family truly was having a unique period of time, so friends, thanks.